स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतङ्गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God Incarnate, who came to establish religion universal. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Today's topic I have chosen from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, Taking Spiritual Vow. Spiritual life is entirely different than the worldly life. Spiritual life paves the way for liberation and gives you eternal peace and joy. As long as we are living in this world, we are entangled in so many ways. Involving ourselves in too many things of the world, becoming totally helpless and hopeless, undergoing severe sufferings. So, if a person has to turn back towards spirituality, he needs strong commitment. Very strong determination is required. Otherwise, it is not possible to get away from the worldly entanglements. The worldly entanglement makes you more and more selfish, more and more jealous, develops all sorts of negative qualities. And so, you will be in a very disturbed condition. Vaishnava Goswami was seated in the room of Sri Ramakrishna at Dakshineshwar. They were talking about spiritual matters. Sri Ramakrishna asked him, "Well, what do you say? What is the way?" Goswami replied, "Sir, the chanting of God's name is enough. The scriptures emphasize the sanctity of God's name for the Kali Yuga." Sri Ramakrishna replied, "Yes, there is no doubt about the sanctity of God's name. But Can a mere name achieve anything without the yearning love of the devotee behind it? One should feel great restlessness of soul for the vision of God. Suppose a man repeats the name of God mechanically, while his mind is absorbed in lust and gold. Can he achieve anything? Mere muttering of magic words doesn't cure one of the pain of a spider or scorpion sting. One must also apply the smoke of burning cow dung, a primitive medicine used by the villagers for scorpion bites. So like that, Sri Ramakrishna answered Goswami. And Goswami said, well, but what about Ajamil? He was a great sinner. There was no sin he had not indulged in, but he uttered the name of Narayan on his deathbed, calling his son, who also had that name. And thus he was liberated. Sri Ramakrishna replied. Perhaps Ajamil had done many spiritual things in his past births. It is also said that he once practiced austerity. Besides, those were the last moments of his life. Then Sri Ramakrishna said, what is the use of giving an elephant a bath? It will cover itself with dirt and dust again and become its former self. But if someone removes the dust from its body and gives it a bath just before it enters the stable, then the elephant remains clean. Suppose a man becomes pure by chanting the holy name of God, but immediately afterwards commits many sins. He has no strength of mind. He doesn't take a vow not to repeat his sins. A bath in the Ganges undoubtedly absolves one of all sins. But what does that avail? They say that the sins perk on the trees along the bank of the Ganges. No sooner does a man come back from the holy waters than the old sins jump on his shoulders from the trees. The same old sins take possession of him again. He is hardly out of the water before they fall upon him. Therefore I say, Sri Ramakrishna said, chant the name of God and with it pray to him that you may have love for him. Pray to God that your attachment to such transitory things as wealth, name and creature comforts may become less and less every day. So, a strong commitment is required. Otherwise you will not make an inch of progress in spirituality. You have to get rid of worldliness in order to come to spiritual life. The more you come towards spirituality, the more you are away from worldliness. So, spiritual vow is necessary. It is a mental apparatus. Just as an apparatus is an equipment or a functional process designed to bring forth a specific result or activity, a mental apparatus seeks to obtain a different psychological reward or behavioral change. An apparatus holds, lifts, controls or generates something desirable. A spiritual vow similarly holds, lifts, controls and generates something desirable at the mental level. All spiritual or moral efforts have mind as its primary pivot. A spiritual vow, therefore, is basically a mental activity, an internal mechanism, and an invisible procedure that one follows in order to obtain a spiritual benefit. Every human being has some experience in what is called as taking of a vow. A New Year resolution to study hard, a resolve to get up early in the morning, a self-imposed diet restriction, a self-ban on some activity at least once in our lifetime. We all take a vow. We may not have often kept up our resolve, but vows we all take. But rare indeed are people who resolve to live a spiritual life. And rarer still are those who remain resolutely faithful to their vows till the end. This is the story of human civilization, of keeping vow in search of moral and spiritual excellence, breaking them, taking them again, till success is reached. That's why Swami Vivekananda said, "Arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached." Just as an athlete vows to build up his stamina through a rigorous practice schedule, or a musician attempts to perfect a musical note through unremitting rehearsals, a spiritual aspirant vows to reorient his inner and outer life in order to inculcate his spiritual nature. Practice is the key word, be it a secular pursuit or a spiritual quest. Practice is a must. So the practice of taking a vow, every religious tradition in the world has a system or a method of taking a religious vow. Be it a devout Christian vowing to follow the 10 Commandments, or a Buddhist devotee vowing to repeat his daily prayers for a set number of times, or a Hindu devotee tying a thread on his waist or wrist to remind him of his vow to do japa and dhyana. Taking a vow is common, though its forms differ. Many of the vows people take have a selfish end in view: winning a legal battle, passing in an exam, getting cured of a disease, and so on. Though selfish in nature, vows of this kind only point to man's desire to seek a divine intervention in his mundane affairs. Spiritual vow is an act by which a person is bound to live in a manner that is conducive to his spiritual ideal. A spiritual vow, like a religious vow, is solemnized through a ritual. In order to add sanctity and seriousness to a vow, rituals and ceremonies have been in vogue for long. Their primary purpose is to provide seriousness and importance to the act of vowing. This also makes vowing a sacred event or a holy occasion. To take a spiritual vow is to make a promise, an unswerving allegiance to a spiritual ideal. Every vow, consequently, has a positive and negative profile. When we vow to do something, we also, though it is not well pronounced, vow to give up everything that comes in our way of fulfilling that vow. To take a vow is to generate a positive current to achieve a particular purpose and simultaneously generate a negative current not to do certain things. To do something naturally means to give up all factors contrary to its purpose. Now, dynamics of vow. Let us understand it further. Suppose a person vows to adhere to truthfulness in thought, word, action. He takes a solemn resolve to this effect. It naturally means that he would not adhere to or resort to untruthfulness. He will adhere to truth means that he will give up all that leads to contrary results, that is untruth. One has to understand this dual nature of a vow. One cannot eat the cake and also have it, as goes the proverb. Among the Hindus, this vow is often taken before a fire, Agni Sakshi. Fire is held very sacred by Hindus. It is a symbol of God, in whose presence an aspirant promises to do or act in a certain way. Be it solemnizing a marriage or taking sannyas vows, fire has been accorded the status of a witness in all Hindu ceremonies and rituals. Fire also symbolizes the intensity and sincerity of purpose. Besides its physical form, fire also represents a mental or inner power that ignites up a person's power of resolution. When a person wanting to take a vow pronounces his vows before the fire, he as if binds himself to the sacred trust that fire symbolizes. Fire ritual is an essential part of solemnizing a resolve. The mind is everything, says Holy Mother, Sri Shadadi. It is in the mind alone that one feels pure and impure. In fact, mind is a storehouse of power, but mostly this inherent power remains dormant and unused. A vow is aimed at awakening this intrinsic power. An aspirant, before taking the vow, prays thus: may the resolves that I make of my self-effulgent mind, which wanders far and near in the waking state and withdraws into itself in the sleep state, conduce to my spiritual being. In other words, by describing mind's power to wander far and near, an aspirant reminds himself that he has an inherent capacity to rise to a higher place of existence. He invokes those powers for a spiritual purpose. The same wandering mind, with its wandering tendencies, trained and disciplined, can guide and contribute to our spiritual well-being. As Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Uddhared atmanatmanam natmanam avasadayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhu atmaiva ripuratmanaha. A man should uplift himself by his own self. So let him not weaken this self, for the self is a friend of oneself and this self is the enemy of oneself. Here self is referred to mind. Highlighting this, Swami Vivekananda too says, in the same vein, Swamiji said, the mind uncontrolled and unguided will drag us down, down forever, rend us, kill us, and the mind controlled and guided will save us, free us. A vow is not a pious wish, not a may-be-done desire, but a conscious must-be-done choice that we make. A vow is a mental decision to stick to the purpose of the vow. Nothing disintegrates psychologically more than not to stick to our vows. Not that everyone is well equipped to follow his vows, but one must be sincere and persevering. This helps us in reaping the result of our vows. Vows are like plants. To take a vow is like sowing a seed. Before you sow a seed, you have to first prepare the soil. You have to till the land, turn the soil upside down, remove weeds and stones, and fertilize it with required quantity of manure. Every experienced farmer knows that however good or high yield seeds he may use, until the soil is duly prepared, he cannot get the expected yield. Similarly, however noble may be our resolves or the vows that we take, until we prepare the mind soil through certain preliminary disciplines, the taking of a vow, like the sowing of seeds in an unprepared soil, will not bring expected results. We have therefore to first prepare the mind. This means removal of all those mental obstacles and rifts that resist our mental resolutions. One must think deeply before one takes a vow. We have to till the inner soil, purge it of all doubts and suspicions, and be mentally clear as to what these vows will bring. We must de-weed, that means must free the mind from weeds of all contrary ideas, uproot inner vacillations and unwillingness, and clear it of all weakness, and then manure it with faith and respect. We are thus prepared to receive our spiritual vows. Vows taken with preparation get firmly rooted. A good soil is, of course, necessary, but it is not sufficient. Having sown the seeds, we have to irrigate and protect them too. Regular nourishment and watering and keeping a check on insects, pests and stray animals equally play an important role in nourishing the fruits in making. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, haven't you seen the trees on the footpath along a street? They are fenced around as long as they are very young. Otherwise cattle destroy them. But there is no longer any need of fences. When their trunks grow thick and strong, then they won't break even if an elephant is tied to them. Just so, there will be no need for you to worry and fear if you make your mind as strong as a thick tree trunk. Thick tree trunk. Just as one has to fulfill certain conditions for sowing, cultivating and reaping fruits, our vows too need to be given due respect and care before they can really bring good to us. Problem is that people are too casual, too easygoing, and too non-serious about their vows. To most people, taking a vow is just one of the many mechanical functions that they regularly do. It is like what Mark Twain once said. It is very easy to give up smoking. I have done it many times. They do not think breaking of a vow is of any consequence. When we break promises in our social and political life, and with what regularity it is done, we suffer in the form of corruption, injustice, and increase in crime rate. We then cry foul at those who promise but do not keep their promises. The fact is that promises at the macro or community level can be kept up only when we keep our promises in our personal day-to-day lives. When we are untruthful, not keeping trust with regard to our personal vows, we are so in our outer social promises too. They go together. How to keep up the vows? Vows, as pointed out earlier, need to be cultivated and nourished on regular basis. It is not sufficient that we take a vow before fire or any other sacred witness and tell others that we are under those vows. We must renew them over and again. Interpret them wisely in the context of newer situations and circumstances. It is essential not only to take a vow, but also to keep it up by daily renewal. At least we must be aware of the spirit of our vows, not to keep our vows as vibrant, living principles in life. Some measures are suggested. One is regularly renewing our vows, if possible, daily. We can remind ourselves of the promise that we have made can be done by mentally reliving the process over and again. We must so organize our routine so as to repeat these vows at least once daily or on alternate days or at least periodically. Secondly, focus our attention on the implications or meaning of our vows. If we examine our position in our vow-keeping chart and observe the failure instances, we will discover to our dismay that we fail because our vows have become a piece of exhibition, a kind of mental showpiece, unrelated to our inner or outer life. A vow must not be a piece of antiquity to be dug out with the skill of an expert archaeologist, but a living truth whose fruits and care is a matter of active concern for us. Thirdly, an occasional recalling of the circumstances or mental pressures that motivated us to take these vows keeps the purpose of our vows unveiled. A vow is not just a simple sentence spoken out casually and without understanding its meaning. It is a conscious process. Reminding ourselves of our original spirit will help us to keep the inner spirit growing unceasingly. Commitment, the core of a vow. To take a spiritual vow means to become committed to a spiritual ideal. Commitment is a part of self-discovery. Only a mature and psychologically grown-up person knows its importance. When commitment steps into our life, it brings a profound change in our life. Commitment, that means in Sanskrit pratigna, is like igniting a bomb. It detonates our inner energies and power. It helps us focus our mental and physical powers and will not let us look for excuses for not fulfilling our vows. As Sri Ramakrishna says, new farmers give up cultivating if their fields do not yield any crops. But hereditary farmers will continue to cultivate their fields whether they get a crop or not. Their fathers and grandfathers were farmers. They know that they too must accept farming as their means of livelihood. A hereditary farmer knows nothing else except to cultivate the land. He does not search for alternatives. He may seek to improve his personal method. He may seek to improve his present method, but never abandons his pursuit. Like all other pursuits, vows too have to encounter obstacles. Maybe we are placed in difficult circumstances, or are sick and lazy, or lack proper guidance, or perhaps we have lost faith in our own vows. In any case, we must recognize obstacles and treat them with a well-cultivated indifference and assault them with alertness and wisdom. Vows are more important, not obstacles that impede their fulfillment. In case of challenging situations, we should recall our divine nature, allow the thoughts of our spiritual nature to sink deep down into our mind, and remain sincere and humble. Often it is overconfidence more than simple neglect that causes our fall. Prayer, a sincere plea to God, also is a great help in keeping our vows. That's why a spiritual vow is pronounced with a prayerful attitude. When we become slackened in our vows, we set out for an unfortunate destination. It may happen very silently without causing any ripples in our conscience. Sri Ramakrishna, describing the phenomenon, says, men do not realize how far they are dragged down. Once I went to the fort in a carriage, feeling all the while that I was going along a level road. At last I found that I had gone 4 stories down. It was a sloping road. A man who takes a vow but does not live according to it soon becomes a hypocrite. Lord Krishna describes in the Gita, Karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasa smaran indriyarthan vimudhatma mityachara sauchyate. He who restraining the organs of actions sits revolving in the mind thoughts regarding objects of senses, he of deluded understanding, he is called a hypocrite. A man of vows must see to it that he does not become a hypocrite. His inner and outer life must join hands in keeping his spiritual vow a burning, bright light, leading him to his spiritual destination and fulfilling him thereby. To keep the sanctity of a spiritual vow is indeed true heroism. So, spiritual vow has such tremendous significance. Taking initiation means taking spiritual vow. And it only points out how we should be very serious in practicing spiritual life and following the spiritual path. Any questions to ask? You're welcome. No questions? Page 918. Dr. Sarkar left. Yam sat near Sri Ramakrishna and repeated the conversation he had had at Dr. Sarkar's house. Yam said, Dr. Sarkar was feeding the goldfish with cardamom shells and the sparrows with flower pellets. He said to me, did you notice? The fish didn't see the cardamom shells and therefore went away. First of all, we want knowledge and then bhakti. Did you notice those sparrows? They too flew away when I threw the pellets of flower. They have no jnana, therefore they have no bhakti. Master said smilingly that knowledge means the knowledge of the physical world, the knowledge of science. Yam said, Dr. Sarkar said further, must I believe a thing simply because a Chaitanya or a Buddha or a Christ has said it? That would not be proper. A grandson has been born to him. He praised his daughter-in-law highly. He said, I don't notice her at all in the house. She is so quiet and bashful. Master said, he has been thinking of this place, meaning himself. His faith is growing. Is it possible to get rid of egotism altogether? Such scholarship, such fame, and he has so much money, but he doesn't show disrespect for what I say. It was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The devotees were sitting quietly in the room. Many outsiders also were present. All sat in silence. Yam was seated very near Sri Ramakrishna. Now and then they exchanged a word or two in a low voice. The master wanted to put on his coat. Yam helped him. Master said to Yam, you see, nowadays it is not necessary for me to meditate much. All at once, I become aware of the indivisible Brahman. Nowadays, the vision of the Absolute is continuous with me. M did not reply. The room was full of men, all silent. Presently, Sri Ramakrishna spoke. Master, well, all these people are sitting here without uttering a word. Their eyes are fixed on me. They are neither talking nor singing. What do they see in me? M said to the Master, Sir, they have already heard many things you have said. Now they are seeing what they can never see anywhere else. A man always blissful, of childlike nature, free from egotism and intoxicated with divine love. The other day you were pacing the outer room of Ishan's house. We two were with you. A man came to me and said that he had never before seen such a happy person as you. M became silent. The room was still. A few minutes later, Sri Ramakrishna spoke to M in a whisper. Master said, well, how is the doctor coming along? He now received well the ideas of this place. M said, how can an effective seed fail to sprout? It must germinate somehow or other. I feel like laughing when I remember what you said the other day. Master asked, what was that? M said, you said that Jadu Malik was so absent-minded that while taking his meals he did not know whether a particular dish was seasoned with salt or not. If anyone pointed out to him that a dish was not salted, he would say in a surprised voice, yes, yes, you see it's not salted. He told this to the doctor because he had said to you that he was always absent-minded. You meant that he became absent-minded thinking of worldly things, not because of contemplation of God. Master said, will you not pay attention to what I say? M said, of course he will, but he forgets many of your instructions because of his numerous duties. Today too, he made a nice remark when he said, to look on a woman as mother is a spiritual discipline of the Tantra. Master said, what did I say to that? M said, you told him about that Bhagavata scholar who owned bullocks and plows. The Master smiles. Further you told him about the king who said to the Pandit of the Bhagavata, you had better understand it yourself first. The Master smiles. Then he told him about the Gita, whose essence is the renunciation of lust and gold, renunciation of the attachment to lust and gold. You said to him, how can a worldly man who has not renounced lust and gold teach others? Perhaps he didn't understand the drift of your words. He changed the subject. Sri Ramakrishna was thinking about the welfare of his devotees. Purna and Manindra were two of his young devotees. He sent Manindra to talk to Purna. It was evening. A lamp was burning in Sri Ramakrishna's room. The devotees and visitors were sitting at a distance. The Master was introspective. Those in the room were also thinking of God and sat in silence. A few minutes afterwards, Narendra entered the room with a friend whom he introduced to the Master as an author. Sri Ramakrishna talked with him about the metaphysical significance of Radha and Krishna. The author said that Radha and Krishna were the supreme Brahman. Vishnu, Shiva, Durga and other deities had sprung from them. Master said, That's good. There are different aspects of Radha. In a seductive aspect, she was Chandravali. In an aspect of love, she participated in Sri Krishna Leela at Vrindavan. Nanda Ghosh, Krishna's foster father, had the vision of the eternal Radha. First is the seductive Radha, then the Radha of love. If you go further, you will see the eternal Radha. It is like taking off the layers of an onion one by one. First the red layers, then the pink, then the white. Afterwards, you don't find any more layers. Such is the nature of the eternal Radha. Radha, the Absolute. There, the discrimination following the process of not this, comes to an end. There are two aspects of Radha Krishna, the Absolute and the Relative. They are like the sun and its rays. The Absolute may be likened to the sun and the Relative to the rays. I shall stop here. Chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quench that mighty forest fire, worldly lust raging furiously within. Our name streamed down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself, O self, drowned deep in the waves of His bliss, tasting His nectar at every step, bathing in His name that bought for weary souls. Various are thy names, O Lord, in each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy, how huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass. Be patient and forbearing like a tree. Take no honor to thyself, give honor to all. Chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for the wealth or retinue, the playthings of lust or the toys of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy, consider him as dust beneath thy feet. Oh, how I long for the day when an instant's separation from thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years, when my heart burns away with its desire, and the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at thy feet let me be, in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O thou, who stillest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt, for thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers, may all realize what is good, may all be actuated by noble thoughts, may all rejoice everywhere, may all be happy, may all be free from disease, may all realize what is good, may none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous, may the virtuous reign tranquility, may the tranquil be free from bonds, may the freed make others free. May good betide all people, may the sovereign righteously rule the earth, may all beings ever attain what is good, may the worlds be prosperous and happy, may the clouds pour rain in time, may the earth be blessed with crops, may all countries be freed from calamity, may holy men live without fear. May the Lord destroyer of sins, the presiding thee of all sacred works, be satisfied, for he being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased, he being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.